Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on Boxing. Obviously, we have breaking news that does change the way 2024 is going to move forward. Let's talk about it and let's give some feedback on what direction can we go in now. So stay tuned, join in, and let's talk boxing with Sean on Boxing. Welcome back, everybody, to another great show with Sean on Boxing. So yesterday, or this morning, or last night, whatever time it may have been for you, news broke from, what's his face? The Korean American commentator, Steve Kim, Stephen Kimothy, as Ring IQ likes to call him, talking about how Lomachenko was pulling out of negotiations with Tank Davis for a November fight for unification. And obviously that's very disappointing. That's a fight that everybody was looking forward to, regardless of their rationale or reasoning behind it. It was a huge unification fight. Tank Davis's first real legitimate fight of his career and his first unification fight. For Lomachenko, it was just the continuation of what has been a fantastic career for the Ukrainian Olympian. And obviously, taking on a Tank Davis was a very big task in front of him and a very intriguing matchup. Recently, I just rewatched the Frank Martin fight, and I definitely walked away feeling that Lomachenko had the skill set to beat Tank Davis. But obviously, Tank Davis, the explosive athlete that he is always a dangerous opponent. When you have power and explosiveness like Tank Davis has, it only takes one punch to change the outcome of a fight. And that's what makes Tank Davis fights so intriguing, so interesting. You can put him in with fighters that technically are better than him, have better resumes, and have achieved more in the sport. But that doesn't mean they're going to beat him head to head. And obviously that was the big matchup. The big interest was finally getting a Tank Davis-Vasily Lomachenko fight. Unfortunately, we've had to wait 7 years for that fight to unfold. Obviously, they were champions at 130 pounds at the same time. And what boxing fans were hoping for is that Lomachenko and Tank Davis and Burchelt and the other champions at that time could all fight one another to become undisputed at 130 pounds. The other three champions showed little to no interest in fighting Vasily Lomachenko, which is why he moved up to 135 pounds and continued his career. Well, Tank Davis remained at 130 and still didn't fight any of the other world champions at that weight class. Now finally has moved up to 135, had quite a bit of experience now at this weight class, and finally is getting what is really seen as a legacy type of fight. Truthfully, a legacy fight. And people were pretty excited for it. Whether you're a Tank Davis fan and you were looking forward to him knocking out Vasily Lomachenko, or you're a Vasily Lomachenko fan and looking forward to him getting what would be seen probably as the biggest win of his career, or just a boxing fan waiting to see two great fighters match up to see who was better and which of them inevitably was going to move forward to take on Shakur Stevenson. Now we catch ourselves at a crossroads, so to speak. And I made a video yesterday breaking down Tank Davis's resume and talking about how Tank Davis needed Lomachenko. Lomachenko didn't need Tank Davis. And I stand by that. It's true. Lomachenko could retire tomorrow. He doesn't need Tank Davis. But at this point of Tank Davis's career, he needs Vasily Lomachenko. And if not Lomachenko, then, as our video talks about today, then who? Who is going to be next? Who's going to be that legacy opponent that Tank Davis can move forward with his career? Diesel's in the house. Salute. We went both tooth and nail with your bum Canadians and bottom feeders South Sudan. Disgusting 1-point victory. I'm very concerned moving forward. Oh, you mean Team USA? Did they only beat South Sudan by 1 point? Don't criticize Canadians because they're no bums. Canadians team is fucking great. The problem is they have no big men. No big men. But yesterday we were still able to beat France, who has a lot of big men, and Canada was still able to beat them because wing-wise, we're one of the best teams in the world. And we didn't even have Murray play yesterday, right? You add Murray to that squad, and there's another all-star on Team Canada. we definitely have a great team. The problem is, fundamentally, we kind of have to play like Golden State Warriors played. All right, we have to be a team that, you know, is a 3-point, fast-paced, up and down type of squad, because obviously we can't deal with big players. We don't have anyone to D them up. But we still beat France yesterday, and we know they have 2 7-footers, whereas Canada has none. As far as the state struggling with South Sudan, I could not name a fucking player on the Sudanese team. Literally. I'm sure that at one time, I think Manu Bol is from the Sudan. So obviously, maybe his son is playing for Sudan. Correct me if I'm wrong. But outside of that, I don't know who is Sudanese and plays in the NBA. I just found out something else that I thought was pretty interesting as well. The WNBA player, who's one of the leading scorers, the girl from Dallas Wings, Nigerian, ended up being the MVP of the All-Star game today. What a fucking player she is. Literally in the WNBA, a star was born. And however you pronounce her name, it's that girl. She wasn't allowed to join the Nigerian national team after being snubbed by Team USA. Imagine that, right? But I heard Loma duck Tank. You can say it's a duck. You can say whatever you want. The truth of the situation is Tank Davis and Lomachenko have been negotiating for a few months now, right? And we've had a lot of stuff come out of the Tank Davis's team, you know, talking about how Lomachenko was going to step aside to allow Shakur, which then Bob Arum poo-pooed and said it was bullshit. And then, of course, Tank Davis's trainer said that he was just joking and you know, backtracked on that. And then recently we just heard that Tank Davis was asking for a $40 million guarantee. So you can understand that potentially negotiations have kind of hit a roadblock, where at that point Lomachenko just kind of said, fuck you. You ain't really interested, so whatever. And I also heard some news from the Ukraine recently as well, that Lomachenko's hotel in the Ukraine was bombed and destroyed, obviously by Russians. So, you know, for Lomachenko, unlike most people, he's got a lot on his plate, right? A lot of other things to be concerned about. And boxing may not be number one priority for him at this point of his career, right? People can call him a duck, and that's fine. You can say he's ducking a guy who literally ducked him for 7 fucking years. If that makes you feel better. I just saw John Boxing today come out and say that Tank Davis did not duck him. Yet literally John Boxing made about 40 videos over the last 7 years defending Tank Davis for blatantly ducking Lomachenko, talking about how he was too young and that, you know, the fight shouldn't happen. Only to now come out and try to act as if Tank Davis hadn't been ducking Lomachenko for the last 7 years, even when his manager, Floyd Mayweather, blatantly came out and exposed the duck. Blatantly. Everybody knew he ducked, and you could say it was because he was too young, not prepared. Whatever the excuse was, that excuse is no more valid than whatever is directing Lomachenko now. The reality is Lomachenko is close to retirement. We found that out after the Kambosos fight, when he basically said his dad had to like coax him back into the ring for the Kambosos fight. And he was ready to walk away from the sport after the disgusting robbery against Devin Haney. So you can understand that mentally he's just checked out. He's not into it anymore. And for Tank Davis, there's still a lot of other big name opponents available for him to build his legacy, something he hasn't done yet at 30 years of age. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you can't fight Lomachenko, oh well, you can't fight Lomachenko. Now what are you going to do? How are you going to move from now? Loma ducked Tank because Tank wasn't interested, huh? No, Diesel, you're missing all the fucking pieces. We know that Tank Davis for the last 7 years blatantly ducked Lomachenko. We know they've been in negotiation for the fight for a few months now. We've seen the stuff coming out of Tank Davis's corner. So at this point, Lomachenko walks away saying he's not really motivated right now. Maybe he's just doing the same thing other people do in negotiation. But I'm not defending or justifying him. The truth is, Lomachenko doesn't fucking need Tank Davis. His legacy is not going to be hurt if he doesn't fight Tank Davis. Tank Davis was a part of a whole new generation of fighters, and the only one out of that generation he's fought was the worst one in Ryan Garcia. So he should, and his fans probably should, focus more on how his career can be moved forward and not worry about Vasily Lomachenko. Elvis or Evis, Tank afraid to fight an elite fighter? If Tank is so tough, go after the champions at 140. Well, we know that's not a reality unless potentially it's going to be against Isaac Cruz. And that's what we'll talk about now. So the question is, who can Tank Davis fight moving forward? Let's just pull up my screen share here for a second, and we will just look at this and discuss it here. So there we go. Screen share. Everybody can see. So obviously right now at 135 pounds, according to BoxRec, Tank Davis is number 1. Shakur Stevenson is number 2. Somehow William Zepeda is number 3. Vasily Lomachenko is 4. Raymond Muratalla is 5. Denis Baranchyk is 6. Emmanuel Navarrete, who we all know is going to move down to 130 pounds, is 7. Zaur Abdurev is 8. Yoshino, who was stopped brutally and hasn't really done anything on the comeback, is somehow ranked in the top 10. Mark Chamberlain, and then Keyshawn Davis, and even Frank Martin, who got beat by Gervonta Davis, and even De Los Santos. Those fighters should all be ranked higher, definitely above Navarrete, Alvarez, Yoshino, Chamberlain. You should definitely put Martin, Santos, and especially Keyshawn Davis right up there in the top 10. So there's a lot of potential opponents for Tank Davis. We know that Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis have called him out. We know that right now, William Zepeda is his mandatory. But we also know that William Zepeda's manager, promoter, is probably going to move him more towards Denis Baranchyk, a much easier world title to win. So look forward for him to try to get that WBO title. So Tank Davis is left in a limited spot. There's only so many potential opponents available for him to fight. Diesel, of course, is a Tank Davis fanboy. We can tell by his comments. Loma ducks and Tank gets blamed. You can't make this stuff up. Nobody's blaming Tank Davis. I'm putting things in context. You choose to ignore everything just to point fingers at Lomachenko. Diesel, did Tank Davis not duck Vasily Lomachenko for the last 7 years? Leave it in the comment section. Did Tank Davis's team not just come out recently and say that Lomachenko was going to step aside to allow the Shakur fight and then have to go back on that statement? Leave it in the comment section. Did Tank Davis's team not just come out to say that they wanted a $40 million guarantee? Leave your comment in the comment section below. I'm not afraid to say Lomachenko ducked Tank Davis, because what does it matter? My statement holds true. Tank Davis needs Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko does not need fucking Tank Davis. Vasily Lomachenko has never been motivated chasing the money, unlike this generation of American boxers. For him, it's different. It was goal-driven, goal-oriented. Maybe what Lomachenko is saying is, fine, if you're going to be a douche, I'm going to step aside. You can fight Shakur Stevenson, and then I'll come back and fight the winner. And that way I become closer to becoming undisputed, a goal that motivates me, right? But if you want to say Lomachenko is ducking Tank Davis to make you feel better, that's fine. Lomachenko is ducking fucking Tank Davis. But the reality of the situation is Lomachenko doesn't need Tank Davis. Tank Davis needs Lomachenko. Unless he's going to fight Shakur Stevenson next. But let's move forward. Raf says Loma didn't duck. Machado says Tank ducks Loma for 7 years and you blame Floyd. See how that works? Lomachenko, Loma chicken, 100% miles and running from Tank. Well, John Mays, John Boxing, his real name. Of course, he's always been anti-Lomachenko. So it's no surprise that literally he's defending Tank Davis for ducking for 7 years, but now is on the blowhorn talking about Lomachenko not fighting Tank Davis. But this has nothing to do with Lomachenko's legacy. Lomachenko's legacy is already fucking solidified. The man that needs to build his legacy is Tank Davis. That's just the truth. No matter how much you cry, point fingers, make it about race, cry and moan, the reality is right now the onus falls on Tank Davis to sign to fight Shakur Stevenson. Shakur has been moaning and groaning about not getting the big fights, about not getting fucking first dibs, and now he's a free agent, and Tank Davis is looking for a fucking legacy opponent. Here you go. Now is the time. Like, there's nothing that would be a bigger fight in 2024 than Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. That fight is huge. It's a legacy fight for both of those fighters. But who feels confident that Tank Davis is going to move in that direction? Nobody feels confident about that. We knew Tank Davis was chasing after Loma because he's almost 37 years old. If you're all about that smoke, if you're all about that legacy, go fucking make a deal with Shakur Stevenson. Tank fanboys are delusional. Loma's the GOAT. I just want to see the best fight, Sean. That's all I'm saying. Well, if you want to see the best fight, Diesel, then you should be pushing for fucking Shakur versus Tank Davis. Because on every 135-pound ranking, Shakur Stevens and Tank Davis are both ranked above Vasily Lomachenko. So the best against the best. Who is it? See, I asked you some direct questions, and I noticed you ducked them, dodged them, and didn't fucking respond to them. Exposing yourself. Because if you were all about the best making the best, then you would respond to the comments I left you. Ralph, he fumbled the opportunity. Tank fumbled the opportunity, yeah, by asking for $40 million guaranteed. Smash the likes. Yes, also amazing. Loma never really wanted Tank, and this proves it. This doesn't prove anything of the fucking this at all. I mean, just to put John Mays into his context, see, a guy like him who is all about race politics and not really about boxing. What did Lomachenko say post-fight versus George Kambosos? He literally said that he didn't want to fight anymore, that he was going to walk away from boxing, and the only reason he came back to fight George Kambosos was because of his father, who was pushing for him to win a world title one last time, right? He told you that really his heart wasn't in the sport anymore, you know, with the whole Ukraine war situation, with the Devin Haney robbery, with everything that's going on. Lomachenko's in a position at 37 years old where he doesn't need boxing. That's just the truth. Tank versus Shakur is bigger than Beterbiev versus Bivol. Come on, man. Diesel, you're fucking being full of shit if you even ask me that question. In America, nobody is paying to watch Bivol versus Beterbiev. That's why the only reason that fight's getting made is because Saudi Arabia is funding it and putting on in Saudi Arabia. When that fight was supposed to be happening before, no promoter in America fucking was going to make that fight because it wouldn't sell. The American public, who are casual fans like John Mays, wouldn't fucking support that fight, right? Whereas a Tank Davis versus a Shakur Stevens fight is the equivalent of fucking Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard. Two prime fucking champions, both undefeated, facing each other at their prime, right? But because of that, you know it's not going to happen. Loma should have stayed quiet about Tank. What do you mean? Loma never said a word. Literally, you cannot show me one quote where Lomachenko fucking said anything about Tank Davis this year. What are you talking about? Literally. Loma never mentioned anybody. Never. Tank will try to fight Naoya at 130. I meant implication-wise. Yeah, see, now you're fucking moving the goalposts. We're talking about the biggest fight of 2024, and you're talking about implications. No. Implication-wise, it's not bigger. If Tank Davis beats fucking Shakur Stevenson, he's going to be right in context or in conversation for pound number one, or vice versa. If Bivol or Beterbiev wins, nobody's going to put them fucking above top 4 in the pound for pound list. They're still going to be below Inouye, Crawford, and Usyk, and behind the Tank Davis Shakur Stevenson winner. Tank got y'all pissed. What do you mean got pissed? Again, a person that makes stupid statements. Who's pissed? We're talking boxing and you're talking narratives. We're talking about, okay, so Lomachenko ducked Tank Davis. So what is Tank Davis going to do now moving forward? He has options available to him. The question is, what options is Tank Davis going to take? Is he going to fight Shakur Stevenson for a legacy fight? Or is he going to potentially move up to take on Isaac Cruz to become a 3-weight world champion in a rematch? Or is he going to fight his mandatory William Zepeda, which probably Oscar De La Hoya will swerve that fight anyways? Or what else is he going to do? Those are his options, right? His mandatory, Shakur unification, or move up to face Isaac Cruz for 3rd weight world title. Those are the 3 options available to Tank Davis. And they're all great options. The question is, which option is he going to do? And coming off of the less than spectacular pay-per-view numbers he had against Martin, the question is, how's he going to follow that up with something bigger? Tank, 30-year-old prospect. If Zepeda turns out to be the level of Oscar Valdez or Navarrete, is that disappointing? No, because nobody has acted as if he was anything more than them. If he goes on to be like Navarrete, who was a 3-weight world champion, or Valdez, who was a champion, then what else did you want him to do? Sean is Big Mad Diesel. What are you talking about? See, Diesel said he's all about the best fights being made, yet so far he hasn't mentioned what direction Tank Davis can move towards now. He also didn't ask about what was Tank Davis doing for the last 7 years. He also didn't mention the fact that Tank Davis's team said that Lomachenko was going to step aside, and then had to backtrack on that statement, and then hasn't addressed the fact that Tank Davis literally just came out to say that he wanted $40 million guarantee. But I'm mad. I'm not mad. My question is, what's Tank Davis going to do now? He needed Lomachenko. This was his legacy fight. This was the name opponent that Tank Davis has needed, right? To elevate him, to make him a big name in American boxing. Now that fight's fallen through, and you can blame Lomachenko, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. The question still remains, what's Tank Davis going to do now? That's all I wanted to hear, Sean. Good job being a man and calling this a duck by Loma. Unlike you, John, who never said that Tank Davis has ducked Lomachenko for 7 years. That's the difference between me and you. You're narrative-driven, racist, and I'm a boxing fan. So I can call it and keep it simple. John May's low-key glad. Of course he is. Loma is younger than Crawford. J.A., what does that have to do with anything? Crawford didn't have to fucking deal with his family and his country going through a war. Crawford didn't get robbed in the biggest fight of his career. Crawford didn't have to go through any of those things that Vasily Lomachenko had to go through. So what does that have to do with it? Nobody's saying Loma isn't fighting because of his age. We're just saying the reason Tank Davis is chasing him is because of his age. Because when he was younger, Tank Davis was ducking him. He absolutely got to fight Shakur next. There you go, Diesel, being honest. That's all I wanted to hear. Yeah, Tank Davis needs to fight fucking Shakur Stevenson next. If he doesn't fight him, Isaac Cruz and Zepeda are not bad fights, but that's not the fight boxing fans want. That's not the legacy fight for Tank Davis. Zepeda is not seen as a fucking superstar. He's not even a world champion yet. And Isaac Cruz, he already beat Isaac Cruz with one hand. And Loma ducked. J.A., where were you when Tank Davis literally ducked Lomachenko for 5 fucking years? And ducked every other champion available. Ducked Haney, ducked fucking, what's-his-face, Burchelt, ducked fucking Tevin Farmer. You know, literally every other champion from 130 to 135, Tank Davis has made a career out of ducking them. Unlike Tank Davis, Lomachenko's been a 3-belt unified champion. But okay, push your race narrative, right? Because the only reason you're happy is because Lomachenko is white and you're happy to shit on him because of that. If this was Tank Davis, you'd be fucking defending him. You'd be making excuses for him. We know you. We see you. We fucking see the comments and the racist narratives you push. He ain't fighting Shakur, 30-year-old prospect. Tank don't want risks. Ryan, a bigger name than Loma, Mr. Newton. John Mays, you're a fucking mental case. Ryan Garcia has never been and never will be a world champion. Legacy-wise, a Ryan Garcia win means fucking nothing. Literally nothing. And John Mays, literally fucking made multiple videos fucking stating that. So don't backtrack on your narrative now. But don't get many amateur fights like him. That's true. Amateur fights are tapping contests. Whatever. JA, no one's talking about the amateur fucking pedigree. The reality of the situation is we're talking about in the pro game. Bud Crawford hasn't had to deal with what Lomachenko has had to deal with. It's amazing, though, people want to fucking dick ride Charlo and talk about his mental health issues, right? John Boxing was doing that for fucking ages, yet literally criticized Fury, Ryan Garcia, and any non-black fighter who went through mental health issues, downplayed it and fucking acted like it wasn't a real thing. Then Charlo's going through it, and all of a sudden, it's a real thing, right? Making it about race once again. Mental health is a real thing, regardless of your race, your nationality, your color. It is what it is. I bet you won't say Tank Duck Loma for 7 years. Well, Jeremy Reed, this is the first fucking legitimate comment you've said fucking for a long time. Yesterday you said only cringe comments. Today you actually hold John Mayers to a legitimate fucking statement. Legitimate. That's all I said. You guys want me to say that Lomachenko ducked. Okay, well then you say fucking Tank Davis ducked for 7 years. Bet you are fine with Tank ducking Loma for 7 years. Machado, you should be disappointed in Loma. This ain't Tank's fault. I wanted this fight. The question is, what's Tank Davis going to do now, John Mays? Is he going to fight Shakur Stevenson? Trouble. Jake is coming in with heavy suit. So it's the end of the road for Loma. It might be the end of the road. Loma talked about retirement after the Kambosos fight. Many of us speculated that after the Devin Haney fight, don't be surprised if Lomachenko never fights again. Him going out with a win as a world champion, it's a great end to his career. It's a shame the Tank Davis fight's not happening, but as I stated in yesterday's video, Tank Davis needed Lomachenko. Lomachenko don't need fucking Tank Davis. Lomachenko should have came to the PBC. He was the B-side. Once again, John Mays, Lomachenko never was interested in money. That's dudes like you that pocket watch everybody. When has Lomachenko ever made anything about money? You should be disappointed the fight didn't happen years ago, but you knew aging Loma out was a good idea. Machado, why didn't Loma come to the PBC like Bud did with Spence? That's the funny thing. You guys say that now, but fucking there's no PBC anymore. You know, what's the PBC now? Tank Davis on an island by himself. And your whole narrative kind of is exposing you. Because right now, Shakur Stevenson is a fucking free agent. So if Tank Davis really wants the biggest and best legacy fights of his career, it should be easy to negotiate with Shakur Stevenson. Because Shakur has no promotional fucking deal that's going to get in the way. None. And nobody was talking about how Inouye should go over to fucking the PBC to fight Stephen Fulton, right? It's amazing that, you know, people continuously push this one-sided narrative. You know, Canelo needs to go to the PBC to fight David Benavidez, but yet Canelo's the A-side. Canelo needs to go to the PBC to fight Caleb Plant, yet Canelo was the A-side. You should be. Why don't Loma come to Top Rank? Or why didn't Tank come to Top Rank? Loma the B-side. You do what the A side say. Well, that's a whole stupid argument because we know that's fucking only one-sided bullshit from PBC fanboys. I just gave you several examples of when that doesn't hold true, right? Whenever Canelo Alvarez went over to the PBC, that exposes that whole fucking narrative. Sean, was there a specific Spence fight that made you pick Crawford to beat him, or did you always have Bud beating him? I never really saw anything from Spence that was that fucking sensational. He struggled with Kell Brook early on in that fight. He struggled with, not struggled, but he refused to be aggressive against Mikey Garcia the first 6 rounds of that fight, choosing to box and stay away from Mikey's power for the first 6 rounds. He fucking struggled with Sean Porter, ultimately could have lost that fight except for a late round knockout. And then what other things did he accomplish in his career that were fucking that great? He was a good welterweight, but he never proved that he was a great welterweight. Why didn't Tank come to Top Rank? Fulton was B-side to Inouye. That's why he went to Top Rank. Fulton was the A-side. Well, according to Americans, they were fucking acting like Fulton was the A-side. People actually were saying that Inouye needs to come to the States to fight Fulton. But that still doesn't explain Canelo Alvarez. Why did Canelo Alvarez need to go to the PBC to get a Caleb Plant fight? He did it. Why did Devin Haney need to go to Top Rank to get a fucking George Kambosos fight? But he did it. People did what they had to do to make fights. Unfortunately, people that are PBC fanboys, they always use these excuses to basically duck fights. It's not our business as fans to focus on these topics. I don't care who promotes a fighter, how much money a fighter is getting. It's not my fucking concern. You got a team that's negotiating on your behalf. If you want a fight to get done, it will fucking get done. Tank Davis was offered $5 to $7 million to go over to DAZN to fucking unify with Tevin Farmer. More money than he ever got paid before in his career. But he still ducked that unification fight and then didn't make a counteroffer for fucking Tevin Farmer. And if they made a counteroffer, DAZN would have let Tevin Farmer go over to the PBC. See, the problem with dudes like you is you're all about narratives. You're not about boxing. Because if you want the best to fight the best, right now you should be pushing Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson. Shakur been talking mad smack. Okay, step up, make the fight. Tank Davis been talking mad smack. Okay, step up, make the fucking fight. Both of you fucking get off of Instagram, get off of fucking Twitter, get off social media, get your teams to negotiate and make that fight for fucking November. Right now is July, August, September, October, November. 4 months away. It's plenty of time to fucking promote that fight, to build it up and make it the biggest fight of 2024. But who feels confident that that fight's going to get made? Nobody. That's why we're having this conversation. The one fighter's hype I really fell for recently was Fulton. Well, that's the people pushing that because he's black, and Inouye, of course, can't beat a black fighter. Dudes fucking just love to make everything about race. But race is a fucking misnomer. There's been shitloads of black American fighters who weren't that fucking great. And there's been shitload of non-black American fighters that were fucking great. Of course, that doesn't mean there's not great black American fighters. There are. And that's what we want to see. These guys match up to see who's the best, right? Not because of race, but because we literally want to see who's the fucking best. When we want to see Spence versus Crawford fight, it's not because of some race narrative. We want to see the best fight the best. No one cares that fucking Spence and Crawford are black. We just know they are the 2 best fighters at 147 pounds. Right now, the 2 best fighters at 147 pounds are Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis. Last time I saw Cool Boy Steph, he was getting scraped up. Well, actually, I saw him yesterday in a live with, Mill City Boxing, talking about a bunch of different fights. Cool Boy Steph about to get scraped up again if he does go on and face Luis Neri. Well, I don't know. We saw Luis Neri get beat by Figueroa, and we saw Stephen Fulton face Figueroa, win, but it was obviously a close fight. So based on that fight, obviously you can't use triangle theory, but Stephen Fulton has everything he needs to beat Luis Neri. Luis Neri is a hard puncher, but being a hard puncher doesn't mean you're going to land the hard punches, right? For Fulton, it would be a big jump up to come off of a knockout loss to jump in after a long layoff against Luis Neri. It's dangerous. It's probably not the best thing he should do, but at this point of his career, maybe he's just looking for the biggest money fights available. He got the bag to fight Inui. Now he's looking to get the bag to fight Luis Neri. And if he beats him, he's then going to be one of the top fighters at 126 pounds. And obviously then can move forward with other big money fights. But people, obviously another potential fight we're talking about, and this is a fight people have long been predicting, is the Isaac Cruz fight, right? Isaac Cruz, who currently is the WBA champion at 140 pounds. Well, it's not necessarily the fight I would prefer. Obviously, I'd prefer a Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis unification fight. I think that obviously means more. Here you got Shakur and Gervonta Tank Davis, Lomachenko, and Dennis Baranchyk. I think William Zepeda will be fighting Baranchyk. Lomachenko looks like he's not going to come back until early 2025, if he comes back at all. Maybe we could see him against Keyshawn Davis at that point, right? Which is a ESPN fight, or a Raymond Buratala, which is also an ESPN fight. Or we may see him just drop his title and retire and have Keyshawn face Muratalla for the vacant IBF title. But the fight to be made is Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Davis. In this weight division right now, that is leaps and bounds the biggest fight available. And it was a bigger fight than Tank Davis versus Lomachenko. Obviously, I'm a Lomachenko fan, so I'm excited to see him in any fight. And stylistically, I think it would have been a more entertaining fight. But nonetheless, everybody knows that Shakur and Tank Davis are the future of the 135-pound division. When we jump up to 140 pounds, right now there's a big hole here. They haven't even changed the fact Sabrina Matias is no longer champion. Lean Pero is now the champion, and it's being talked about him facing George Kambosos for that title. Ironically, people are shitting on that, but it's funny that Shakur Stevenson literally just called out Kambosos fucking today or early this week at the Boots Ennis fight card. So he's still interested in fighting him, even though he's coming off of a knockout loss to Lomachenko. David Haney is obviously champion in recess, so we don't know what's going to happen at that weight class. And Isaac Cruz is currently the champion for the WBO. Lopez, obviously WBO champion. We know that Tank Davis is not going to fight Teofimo Lopez for his WBO title, but that would be a huge fight. Big pay-per-view, big money, great stylistic matchup. That fight would really, really fucking gear people up because both guys talk a load of shit. They both have explosive styles. It would be a great fight. And Lopez is not a big guy, so it's a fight that truthfully makes sense. But the irony is Isaac Cruz is probably most likely Tank Davis's next opponent. And I don't hate the fight, but the reality is by beating a Rolly fucking Romero, it does not make you somehow a superstar in boxing, right? It just doesn't. What we should be doing is pushing for Shakur Tank Davis. That is the legacy fight to be made. Drunk Irishman's in the house. Rio says, do you like the Funduro's chances in the Spence fight, Sean? I do. I think Errol Spence is washed. Mentally, he's a lot like where Lomachenko is right now. He's just not that motivated in boxing. Diesel says, the boxing community on YouTube is extremely disgusted and disappointed that Loma ducked Tank. No, a certain amount of the YouTube fucking community is disgusted and disappointed that Tank Davis and Lomachenko aren't going to fight. Real boxing fans understand the fucking history and understand that if it's such a big deal, go fight fucking Shakur Stevenson. That was the fight I always said should be the next fight, not the Lomachenko fight. You can go back before Baranchek won the WBO title, and I was saying the fight that should be happening is Shakur versus Tank Davis, and Lomachenko potentially could fight Navarrete or whoever his mandatory or whatever happens there, and then take on the winner of Tank Davis and Shakur. And I think potentially that is the play that Lomachenko and his team are doing right now. They're saying, why are we going to do all the hard work? Literally, we've been doing all the hard work. Let these two fucking guys fight. Shakur wants the opportunity. Okay, step up, take the fucking fight. And then we'll fight the winner. And that way, instead of fighting two of them, we only need to fight one of them. And for those two guys, this is their first big fight. This is their career-defining legacy fight, right? But of course, race narrative channels are going to make this all about Lomachenko. But as I said, Lomachenko doesn't need fucking Tank Davis for his legacy. But Tank Davis needs Lomachenko. I believe we get Tank versus Shakur next. Diesel, you say that, but even you don't believe that. Literally, there's 8 people in the comment section, and I bet no one literally believes that Shakur Stevenson Tank Davis happens in 2024. Nobody. If you believe it's going to happen, leave a Y for yes. If you don't think it's going to happen, leave an N for no. That's my vote. It's a fight that should happen, but I don't fucking think it's going to happen. I think both of these guys talk so much bullshit, but neither of them are willing to take this risk. Neither of them. Not Shakur nor Tank Davis. That's why Tank Davis was going after the old slick boxer and wasn't interested in the young slick boxer. And basically he's been all over social media doing what? Downplaying and demeaning Shakur Stevenson, right? And Shakur been all over social media crying, moaning, getting in arguments with everyone. Now's the fucking time. You're a free agent. There's no better time for Shakur Stevenson Tank Davis fight than fucking right now. John Sean Boxing, are you a moron? What do you mean if Shakur crosses the street? Now you're putting up fucking roadblocks, even though there are no fucking roadblocks. Just answer the question fairly and stop fucking pushing narratives. Is the fight going to happen? Yes or no? Why are you putting it all on Shakur Stevenson? Tank Davis is the fucking A-side. Make the fucking fight happen. Old lion is still a lion. Diesel, yes or no? Just fucking, you said yes. You think it's going to happen. Good luck on that. I hope it happens. If Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis happens, then I think the boxing world wins. And this Lomachenko hate that we're going to get over the next week or two, it's counterproductive because it doesn't fucking mean anything. Lomachenko doesn't give a fuck. And it ain't helping Tank Davis. So the reality is you should be asking, what can Tank Davis do for his career? Do you really want to see Shakur go for the jog again, Mr. Newton? It's not right now you're making excuses. The point is, what's the biggest legacy fight for Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson right now in the sport of boxing? The biggest legacy move is to fight each other. Nobody wanted to see fucking Floyd Mayweather fight anybody at 147 pounds. Yet the fights were still big and the fights were still necessary. If Tank Davis is really that dog, he will cut off the ring and he'll fucking knock fucking Shakur Stevenson out. And then you won't have to worry about Shakur Stevenson jogging around the ring any fucking more. And if Shakur is really that good, he's going to fucking expose and exploit Tank Davis's fucking lack of volume and the fact that he only fucking loads up and punches, and he's going to embarrass him and beat him to become a unified champion. Tank versus Zepeda, the fight to make. See, putting up roadblocks. You're too afraid to have Tank Davis face Shakur. So you've already put up 3 roadblocks in fucking 4 comments. If Shakur crosses the street, do you want to see Shakur run? Cepeda's the fight to make. You afraid? You afraid for your boy Tank Davis? Because it shows that you don't have any fucking confidence. I got more confidence in Tank Davis than you do. Cepeda is going to fight fucking Berenchek for the WBO title. Everybody fucking knows that. He's going to win a world title, so he has negotiation opportunities moving forward. As a contender, he's got no fucking opportunity to negotiate on a fair playing field. But when he gets the WBO title, he's going to be in that Caleb Plant position. Tank fanboys don't like boxing. They are more like WWE fans. Facts. Facts. They're all over these comment sections, fucking exposing their narrative back and forth, right? They're not fucking pushing for Tank to face Shakur. You know, they're making excuses that Lomachenko is ducking, yet they fucking excuse Tank Davis for ducking for 7 years. And now making excuses why Shakur and Tank doesn't have to happen. Sounding like a bunch of bitches. A bunch of bitches. Shows Tank is cherry-picking champion. Well, we always knew he was a cherry-picking champion. That's why we're saying, if you're going to compare Tank Davis to fucking Canelo Alvarez, then the expectation is that Tank Davis needs to do something great in boxing. Sure, the Lomachenko fight looked like it was going to happen. I was hoping it was going to happen, even though I was favoring Tank Davis at this point of the fight. Lomachenko chose to move in another direction. This is something people do in boxing fucking all the time. But we know YouTube is going to be all over Lomachenko, shitting on him. And the irony is, you know, we've had 7 years of Tank Davis duck Lomachenko. Where were you then? Where was the hostile fucking attitudes at that point? Right? The truth is, it's unfortunate the fight's not going to happen. But we don't know what happened in negotiation. We know literally we've been told the fight was made. The fight was in November. Everything was agreed to. Look forward to this fight happening. And now the fight's broken off. And now Lomachenko's chosen to step aside. You know there's more to it than that. The Tank hate is real. Big Top to bully. What Tank hate? We're asking a simple question. What's Tank Davis going to do now? Is he going to fight Shakur Stevenson? Are you a boxing fan or a fanboy? The Tank Davis dick riding is real. That's all you're doing, exposing that. We're talking boxing and you're dick riding. Like, the reality is the Lomachenko fight is off the table now. So what's Tank Davis going to do? People wanted him to step up and take on a legitimate opponent. Lomachenko was that opponent, but now he's off the table. Look, see John Sean putting up another roadblock. Number 4, Tank versus Pitbull rematch is bigger. Bigger for what? Bigger for who? So then Shakur should just go knock out fucking Rolly Romero and all of a sudden he's going to be a star. Like, dude, man. Big Top facts. It's disgusting, man. What's disgusting? We're pushing for a Shakur Stevenson Tank Davis fight. How is that disgusting? How is us wanting Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson, the two best fighters at 135 pounds, to fight each other in a unification fight, disgusting? Please explain that to me. John Sean Boxing has come up with 4 excuses why Tank Davis should duck Shakur Stevenson. Literally, that's the hypocrisy right now. People pointing fingers at Lomachenko, calling Lomachenko a duck, but now you're literally asking Tank Davis to duck Shakur Stevenson. As if that's a good look. As if that's really what he should be doing at this point of his career. No, what Tank Davis should do is fucking get his people to call Shakur Stevens people ASAP and fucking make that deal. Shakur Stevenson has no promotional fucking company right now. He's a free agent. This fight is easy to make. Tank is just a joke as a boxer. Tank fanboys IQ is like Patrick for SpongeBob. It's not certain Pitbull gets past Raya. Exactly. I think Raya beats Pitbull because Pitbull ain't fucking that good. Beating fucking Rolly Romero does not make you a fucking elite boxer. Shakur needs to get at least one. See, that's excuse number 5 from John Sean Boxing. Literally, he's made 5 excuses why Tank Davis should duck Shakur Stevenson. He's so fucking petrified of fucking Shakur Stevenson. Literally, petrified. Petrified. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. He don't need any exciting fights. He's a WBC world champion who's a pound for pound fighter, a 3-weight world champion, a fucking Olympic silver medalist, and a guy who's fucking getting talked about on social media like fucking crazy. Whereas nobody is literally talking about Isaac Cruz right now on social media. You go to fucking X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, there's 0 fucking posts talking about Isaac Cruz versus Rhea. But there's fucking posts every hour talking about Shakur Stevenson. Shakur needs to get at least one exciting performance, and then he can get Tank. And then he can get Tank. But what's Tank going to do? Literally, you're fucking the kind of person who's ruined Tank Davis's career. Not me. Because all I wanted to see Tank Davis do was fight the best. I never said he was going to get beat. I never said he was a bum. I never said he fucking couldn't beat the fighters that I was asking him to fight. I was favoring him to beat fucking Devin Haney. I was favoring him to beat Lomachenko. I favor him to beat Shakur Stevenson. I'm a hater and my channel's hating on Tank Davis, but it sounds like you are the hater because you're afraid to let Tank Davis prove himself in the ring. At the end of the day, the only thing you can do as a champion, as a pound for pound fighter, as a great fighter, is prove your legacy in the fucking ring. That's it. The same people calling for Shakur versus Tank will be the same ones walking out after the 6th round when Shakur runs. Excuse number 6. Tank been ducking Lomachenko for 8 years. Was the negotiation taking so long? Tank probably had all kinds of demands. So Lomachenko said, fuck this, and walked away. That's all I'm saying. If he was never interested in making this fight, why have they been negotiating for fucking 2 months? They will rob Tank on the cards. Oh my God, excuse number 7. See, this is the problem with so-called boxing fans, right? Today's video was not putting blame on anybody, not on Tank Davis, not on Lomachenko. You can say Lomachenko ducked, that's fine. Lomachenko ducked. But the question today is, what can Tank Davis do now that the Lomachenko fight is off the table? This is a Tank Davis video today, talking about what can Tank Davis do to continue moving his career forward. Why is Mike Tyson a legend and Miguel Cotto legends with no legacy wins? So you're going to compare Tank Davis's career to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, who became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. Mike Tyson, who was an undisputed heavyweight champion and even beat the lineal champion to confirm that. But you're going to criticize Mike Tyson and boost up Tank Davis, who's never fucking unified ever. And then Miguel Cotto, who's a 4-weight world champion, fought fucking elite fighters. And that's the same as Tyson. These guys fought elite fighters, something Tank Davis has never done. You can say, oh, they didn't beat them. They didn't beat them. They fought them. That's the problem when you fight great fucking fighters, Hall of Famers, legacy fighters. You may lose, right? The problem with Tank Davis is he's fucking never challenged himself with elite fighters. So sure, you're not going to lose, but you're also not going to be revered as a great fighter. Your legacy is going to be looked at as disappointing because you never did what you were supposed to do. Great fighters took on great fighters and fucking sometimes lost in the process. Leonard lost to Duran. Duran lost to Leonard. Duran lost to Hearns. Duran lost to Hagler. Hearns fucking lost to Hagler. Leonard fucking beat Hagler, beat Hearns. I mean, this is what happens when great fighters fight. The problem with Tank Davis is he's been fucking protected his whole fucking career by Floyd Mayweather. And now that opportunities there for him to build his legacy, dudes like John Sean Boxing are fucking literally making excuses. Now I know why Tank likes wearing grandma's sweater. I believe Tank's next fight will be next year. It's too early to get excited if you're a Tank fan. I just gave you two exciting matches for Top Rank that will help grow the sport, Sean. What? For Top Rank? What two big fights did you give him for Top Rank? Tank's so tough that he puts rehydration clauses on each opponent. Tank got a better resume than Mike. So nobody's going to listen to you anymore. Because if you say Tank Davis has a better resume than Mike Tyson, you're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Plain and simple. Mike Tyson destroyed fucking Michael Spinks. Michael Spinks, who was a legendary light heavyweight champion, undefeated as light heavyweight, moved up to beat a fucking Hall of Famer heavyweight 2 times in Larry fucking Holmes. And then Mike Tyson destroyed him in a fucking round. No win on fucking Tank Davis' resume fucking comes anywhere close to beating Michael Spinks. And I lost money on that fight. Good point, Sean. I stand down. See, Big Top, you're more than welcome to come to my channel and fucking talk boxing. The problem is you look at guys like John Sean Boxing. They're just trolls that fucking aren't really being realistic, aren't being serious boxing fans. Just pushing out fucking lip service. I didn't like the fact Sylvia was affiliated with Jake Paul, but he's a cool dude. I don't even know what you're talking about. They scored to have the 0 game. They're scared to have the 0 gone. That's true. Eduardo Sugar Nunez versus Tank Davis is the fight I want to see. The problem is nobody knows who fucking Sugar Nunez is. He hasn't fucking got on anybody's radar. So it's too premature for that fight. If Tank Davis was to beat him, he'd get 0 credit at all. And if he lost to him, then he lost to a fucking guy nobody knew. Tank fanboys smoke the crazy stuff. They do. That's why you can be a blatant troll like John Sean Boxing and say the most ridiculous fucking statements, one after another, after another, after another. Right? We ain't hating on Tank Davis. My question is simple. What's he going to do moving forward? I'm not making excuses fucking for him, but I'm also not being unrealistic. I said it would not be surprising for him to move up and take on Isaac Cruz to become a 3-weight world champion. It's an in-house PBC fight. It gives him his 3rd legitimate weight class, legitimate. Mario Barros wasn't legitimate. And the fight does sell because Cruz is Mexican. So you're going to get the black and the Mexican demographic involved. That fight will do good numbers. It'll do far better numbers the second time around based on Isaac Cruz beating fucking Rolly Romero, even though Rolly is a fucking plain and straight bum. Right? But the fight people want is Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis. That is the fucking legacy fight. No, Sean, I just want good boxing. I wanted Tank versus Loma, Tank versus Zepeda, Tank versus Cruz as the last resort. And you're ducking Shakur Stevenson, the legacy fight. The fight that could literally fucking put Tank Davis potentially pound for pound number 1 on the pound for pound list. A legacy fight that will go down in history as one of the best wins of his career. Unlike a Zepeda, unlike a Cruz, and at this point, unlike a Lomachenko. Beat Rakhimov in Tajikistan. Once again, who the fuck is Rakhimov? Nobody knows who he is. Nobody pays attention to that weight division, especially that IBF title, which has been so mismanaged by the IBF, literally no one gives a fuck. People are saying Tank is putting Pitbull rematch. Sure. Sure they are. 140 in shambles, so Tank ain't gotta bother with that division. It don't matter the division is shambles. The reality is if Tank Davis is really concerned about big money and his legacy, him ducking Shakur Stevenson for unification to go fight Isaac Cruz to become a three-weight world champion, but also put himself in position for a potential Ryan Garcia rematch, which he's already voiced, that he'd be interested in. Also a Teofimo Lopez unification fight. Also potentially a Devin Haney unification fight. So there's lots of opportunity for him at 140 pounds. And starting by beating Isaac Cruz, a guy who's smaller than you, then weight is not an issue. You don't need to put a rehydration clause on him. You can fight him normal because he's not going to fucking balloon up in weight. I just think Nunes might be a tough fight for Tank. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But for Nunes, he might want to focus on getting a Navarrete, getting an Oscar Valdez, and getting some fights there first, become a world champion so people actually know who he is before you start talking about how he would be a good opponent for Tank Davis. Because at this point, he's on nobody's fucking radar at all. Literally. For Tank Davis, we know the path he can go. He can fight Shakur Stevenson in unification at 135, the biggest and best fight for his career. Or he can go fight Isaac Cruz at 140. Still a big fight, more of a legacy fight than it was before, because now he can become a three-weight world champion. And it also opens up doors for big money pay-per-view fights down the road. And out of all the fights he's done, an Isaac Cruz pay-per-view is going to do fucking better than a Frank Martin fight. Yeah, Nunes needs to build up his resume. Devin, Shakur, Teo, Pitbull, gotta mix it up, and winner gets Tank. These boys need Tank. No, they don't. Tank needs them. See, that's the problem with you. You expose yourself as a Tank Davis dick rider. Tank Davis is the face of boxing, a pay-per-view star, right? Yet, to be a pay-per-view star, you need opponents that fucking sell. These opponents sell. The opponents you've been fighting, except for fucking Ryan Garcia, didn't fucking sell. They're fine because you're just building up your pay-per-view status. Now you're at a point where you literally need opponents to sell your pay-per-view. You need them. You need them. You're not a fucking guy like Floyd Mayweather who can fight a fucking Robert Guerrero and do 1 million pay-per-view buys based off of you and the Latin market. You're not at that point yet in your career. You need a Shakur. You need a Teo, a Pitbull, a Devin, or a Ryan rematch. Those fights make big money. I think he's the best fighter at 130, as it is, though. One of Tank's fanboys accused Nunes of being on the Valdez-Canelo diet. Whatever. I'm surprised one of Tank Davis's fanboys even knows who fucking Nunes is. The reality is fucking everyone's using fucking something. The difference is the majority of them aren't getting caught. That's it. Once again, as boxing fans, why do I care what fucking drugs people are using? Why do I care who's fucking promoting you? Why do I care how much money you're fucking getting? These things don't fucking matter to me. I don't give a fuck because it's irrelevant. As John Sean Boxing said earlier, I just want the best fights. He's picking and choosing. I literally just want the best fights. That's it. The fight that should be made, Shakur versus Tank. Shakur is a free agent. There's no roadblocks. If the fight is going to get made, now is the fucking time. And win, lose, or draw, you potentially could do that fight again at 140 pounds down the road. If the fight's really good and turns out to be exciting, then you could do a rematch, right? People are so quick to walk away from literally the biggest fights available. Shakur is going to talk all kinds of crazy shit on social media if the fight gets made. The back and forth between them is going to sell the fight like fucking crazy. I think Nunes should call Tank's phone and get Eddie Hearn on the negotiation table. Man, you stuck on fucking Nunez. Move past that because that's not a legacy fight for Tank Davis. It's a legacy fight for Nunez. You know, it's almost the same as fucking pushing for Boots Ennis to get a Bud Crawford fight. The difference is Boots Ennis at least has a world title now, whereas Tank Davis or Nunez doesn't. You know, it's funny. I saw John Boxing acting as if I'm making excuses for Tank Davis or sorry, Bud Crawford to duck Boots Ennis. Yet the irony is, if you go back on his channel, he's the guy that said that Boots Ennis needed to fight all these other guys first before he earned an opportunity. Now he's completely turned fucking and flipped everything on its head, whereas I've been consistent. I said if he could get the fight, it's a great fight, but he doesn't need a Bud Crawford fight. He needs to build his own legacy. If Turki Al-Sheikh is going to make the fight, then cool. I'm not against the fight. It's a great fight. But at this point, Boots Ennis has no legacy of his own. So what he's trying to do, just clout chase off of fucking Bud Crawford? Just like David Benavidez is trying to clout chase off of Canelo? Just like you want fucking Sugar Baby Nunez to clout chase off of Tank Davis? Like, at a certain point, dudes need to fucking do the heavy lifting themselves. They need to put in some work. They need to fucking do something. Right? And unfortunately, in these cases, these guys haven't fucking done anything. They all want the money. They all want the big opportunity. They all want the big pay-per-view fight, the showcase fight. But what have they done? Sweet fuck all. It kind of surprised me you don't know who Ashton Sylvie is. Who? I don't care about social media bullshit, and I definitely don't care about fucking Jake Paul fucking Instagram fights. And I don't hate on Jake Paul. You do what you do to get paid. If he wants to fucking shout out my channel and help me get more subs and more cash, thank you very much, Jake Paul. You're a legend. But I'm a boxing fan. And what he's doing is not boxing. I respect him more than the other dudes who only fucking use boxing to fucking make money out of. At least he's literally putting in work. But, you know, let's be fucking serious. Let's be realistic. He's not worth mentioning now, though. There you go. It might sound like I'm in the Nunez train, but who else is there now that Matias and Russell lost? Well, Russell and Matias were never fucking big names anyway. Neither of those guys were going to get a Tank Davis fight, ever. Those could have been ideal opponents. Ideal opponents for Nunez, but not necessarily ideal opponents for Tank Davis. Ideal opponents for Tank Davis are Shakur, Haney, Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Isaac Cruz, Lomachenko. Those are his ideal opponents. All big pay-per-view fights, all big money fights, all guys with name recognition. That's what he needs at this point of his career. He's 30 years old. People talk about how Inui's not fighting big name opponents, but he's fought big name opponents. He's already done great things in the sport of boxing. We're waiting for Tank Davis to do something equally as credible. The main Tank could fight Shakur, but how do we know that fight is going to get made? Well, yeah, but that's true for everything. How do we know any fight's going to get made? What I'm saying is now as boxing fans, we should all be pushing for the Tank Davis-Shakur Stevens fight. That's the logical fight to get made. Shakur Stevenson has been moaning and groaning about not getting the big fights. Tank Davis has been downplaying him, talking about how he fucking can't fucking hang with Tank Davis. And right now, Shakur is a fucking free agent, promotional free agent, right? So he can make a deal with Eddie Hearn and fucking, you know, Turki Al-Sheikh and DAZN and say, I'm cool with signing with you, but what I need first is you guys to fucking make a Tank Davis fight for me, fucking Shenzai. Exactly, Tank versus Shakur. It's the only fight to make. And when I say that, I said Isaac Cruz also makes fucking sense. But outside of Isaac Cruz and Shakur Stevenson, what fight can Tank Davis literally do now that's going to get a lot of attention, that's going to be great for his legacy? Can PBC boxers fight on Saudi cards? Yeah, man. Right now, a bunch of PBC fighters are fighting on Bud Crawford's Saudi Arabia card in California. Andy Ruiz, Isaac fucking Cruz, both PBC fighters, both fighting on that fucking card. Right? So, yeah. The reality is PBC is not in a position right now to fucking try to negotiate hard. They got no fucking platform. They got no fucking fight dates. They got nothing happening. The Floyd Mayweather PBC blueprint suggested Pitbull Cruz rematch. Well, Mars, that's true. That's what we expect, right? If you were to put money on right now and say, what's the most likely fight to happen? Everybody would be putting fucking red on fucking Isaac Cruz in the PBC, right? Nobody would be putting fucking black on fucking Shakur Stevenson. But as mentioned earlier, by Big Cruz still has to beat fucking Raya, right? That's a big fight on the Bud Crawford undercard. I favor Raya to beat him. He's taller, longer. He got pop. He's already been through a tough fight where he got beat by De Los Santos. I think he's going to come in and be a far smarter fighter the second time around. And I would not be surprised if he beats fucking Isaac Cruz, because what great fighter has Isaac Cruz ever beat? Isaac Cruz' claim to fame is that he went the distance with fucking Tank Davis. Also with PBC planning Pacquiao versus Barrios, they are setting up top Tank versus Pac-Man at a catchweight rehydration clause. Book it. That's just disgusting. He's going to lose to Mario Barrios, and that's going to be the end of that conversation. Cruz has to beat Valenzuela, though, which I think he will. Ideally, I'd like Tank versus Zepeda. Shakur probably won't fight again this year because he needs a new promotional company. What do you mean? That's the time to fight. He needs a promotional company. So it's an easy fucking negotiation to make a fight with Tank Davis, just like Bud Crawford did when he had no fucking promoter to get an Errol Spence fight. Now's the time. If you sign with another promotional company, now you're only making it that much more difficult to get a fucking Tank Davis fight. Really, Raya can beat by Colbert, who is trash? We will see. Loma can fight Dennis. Loma won't fight Dennis or Tank early next year. I'm not interested in seeing Loma fight Tank in the U.S. We know how that will go. That's true. I hope Loma doesn't go out like a chump. Go like a chump? He's going out like a champ. He just fucking got a knockout versus Kambosos, a guy who's never been knocked out, won a lightweight title again. He could retire right now, a world champion. I think Raya is a live dog, especially with Robert Garcia training him. Oh, did he move trainers? That definitely is good. Get away from fucking Benavidez, his father. Isaac Cruz has 0 wins in the Ring Magazine top 10. Shakur and Tank will duck each other. Both are scared of each other for different reasons. Tank afraid to get outboxed. Shakur afraid to get KO'd. I agree. Hurt. Raya did blast out Francisco Vargas, who went the distance with Pitbull. I just think losing to Colbert, regardless of how close it was, is suspect. Salute Sean. Salute Roy. Hey, the reality is it's a good fight. Valdez versus Isaac Cruz. For Isaac Cruz's first title defense, it's a solid opponent. If he wins, then it opens up the fucking gates for a Tank Davis fight, because Tank Davis can legitimately become a 3-weight world champion. And as Evan just stated, Tank and Shakur both afraid to fight each other. They will fucking continue to fucking talk, but are they both fucking interested in walking the walk, right? So people are going to shade Lomachenko and hate on Loma, but Loma's done what neither one of those fucking guys have done. Fight legitimate top pound for pound type competition. Tank Davis hasn't. Shakur Stevens hasn't. Both of them need to build their legacy. And the only thing stopping them from building their legacy is them not making this fight. Because the winner fucking solidifies their legacy. Andre's in the house. Yeah, Raya and Pitbull is a good fight. Not Valdez. Janibek will fight. What's his face? Again. He probably will rematch him, right? Later on this year. You better not duck me, son. Teal versus Norman Jr. is an amazing fight. If he wins the fight, solidifies him as a pound-for-pound fighter without question. Once again, that win might cement him as a future pound-for-pound number one guy, too. Hold up, Evan. Fucking Norman Jr. has done nothing in the sport except beat a very beatable fucking opponent. Let's fucking slow our roll. We're not talking about a dude who's fucking proven to be a great 147-pound fighter right now. If Lopez is thinking about challenging him, it's because he sees him as being vulnerable. Valdez and Cruz could be a good fight, though. Do you see Junto fighting Inui's brother to set up a storyline for 122 showdown? Mars, a real boxing fan, yes. Junto Nakatani fought last night. He knocked out Astrolabia in one round with a fucking big left hand right to the solar plexus, fucking KOing that dude. And now moves forward in his quest to unify titles at 118 pounds. Last night in the post-fight interview, he stated, I would like to unify with Inui. And he asked the crowd, what do you want? Do you want me to unify? Do you want me to unify with Inui? And then he said, or I might go up to 122 pounds. And he told the monster, don't move out of the division yet, because I'm coming for you. Obviously, if he fought Inui's brother, unified against him, and then moved up to challenge the brother in a revenge fight, that would be way bigger, way better. I've talked about this multiple times, and I'll keep saying it until fucking people realize it's true. Inui versus fucking Junto Nakatani would be the biggest boxing match in Japanese boxing history. It would be the Hearns and Leonard of Japanese boxing. That shit is fucking huge. If Tio wins, that I forget to clarify that. Do you think Janibek will move up to 168? Apparently, he's going to stay at 160. I understand he's got unified titles. If he moves to 168, he's got nothing. I think it would be a mismatch for Valdez. Would go down swing if he fought Cruz. Norman Jr. ain't no chump. I think he beats Boots. Santillan is just as good or better than anyone Boots has fought at 147, in my opinion. Fuck, man, Evan. Calm fucking down, brother. Santillan was not the favorite against fucking what's-his-face, the guy who just won this weekend. He was supposed to lose that fight. He surprised everyone by fucking overperforming, right? And everyone said that Norman should beat him. But the problem was Norman was so inconsistent, people could see that he would be outfought by Santillan. He did what he should do. He beat the fighter that wasn't on his level. But come on. He beat Boots Ennis? You fucking crazy, buddy. I think Nakatani would be a tough fight for Inui. He would. Longer, hard puncher. Inui, Nakatani have to fight. Nakatani never been better at 26 than Inui is, which is insane to think about. That's true. That's a no-brainer fight as far as what everyone, including me, wants to watch. Inui versus Nakatani. All these American fanboys asking Inui to move to 126. Move to 126, why? Who at 126 is as good as fucking Junto Nakatani? Nobody. Junto has a bigger frame than Inui, though. Yep. Boots got to move up to 154. Why? Why does Boots need to move up to 154? Why not clean out the 147-pound division, become the undisputed welterweight champion, fucking knock off fucking Devin Haney, knock off Ryan Garcia, knock off Teofimo Lopez, knock off any of these other dudes coming up in weight, fucking Taylor, Regis Prograis, fucking Ramirez, and then move up to 154 when you want to. Why you need to move up now? Norman was a massive underdog against Antillian. He stayed composed and picked him apart. Yeah, he was an underdog because of his inconsistent performances, not based on skill and not based on what people thought about Norman as a fighter. People had huge expectations about him. The problem was his previous couple fights, he'd underperformed, whereas Santillan in his previous fight overperformed. Yeah, you got that. Nakatani deserves a fight with Inui more than anyone at 126. I want to see Inui fight 2 or 3 more times at 122. Then he can finish his own career at 126. He beats Nakatani and MJ. Exactly. Then move to 126 when there's a legitimate 126-pound champion, a guy who maybe unifies titles, proves he's the best fighter in the weight class. Then Inui can move up to challenge him to try to become a 5-weight world champion. I like to add a fight that everyone is sleeping on, though. Sugar Nunez versus Tank. Oh my God, dude. You're a broken fucking record. Nobody knows who Sugar fucking Nunez is. I think Raf Espinoza the best at 126, but he needs to unify before calling out Inui. I don't know if he's the best. He's definitely dangerous. He looked great in his last fight, but mind you, who the fuck was he fighting? He fought a dude that nobody had ever heard of, a guy that wasn't even considered a top 10 126-pound fighter. He was gifted a cherry pick. If he fought Robsy Ramirez in a rematch, I think Vegas would still fucking be prone to pick fucking Robsy Ramirez to beat him in the rematch. Robsy's going in another direction, though, against someone not so tall. I don't care. Give me Nunez versus Tank. Well, you can keep asking for that fight, but this is how much chance you have of that fight being made. Ask and you shall receive. That's a fallacy. That shit ain't true. Otherwise, right now, I'd be living on a fucking yacht in Vancouver. Making fucking YouTube videos from the fucking bow of my boat, chilling with a beer and a bunch of bitches. Fucking Vancouver weather, sunny and nice, not too hot, not sweating my ass off like Taiwan. That's what would happen if you got what you asked for. But unfortunately, life is not that sweet. But you can hope. I know I do. Here I'm sitting in my house, sweating my ass off, drinking a fucking warm coffee. At least at Starbucks. I'm surprised that Hearn is freezing Nunez out, though. Who promotes Nunez? Yeah, but why would they put that fighter, who surprised everyone winning a world title, in with a dangerous guy who's probably going to beat him? They're going to build him up against UK competition to fucking make money out of him in the UK. When they throw him in with a unknown Mexican fighter, we know he's going to get beat because that's what happens to matchroom fighters. Hearn promotes Nunez, well, then he knows what he's doing. He's going to fucking use this guy, make some money before putting Nunez in a fight. But people, thanks for jumping in. Obviously, I don't know what we've actually accomplished today. The question was, now that the Lomachenko fight has fallen through, what exactly do we expect to happen regarding Tank Davis and what's next with him as far as potential opponents? Obviously, the two most likely opponents would be a Shakur Stevenson fight for unification, huge legacy fight, or a potential Isaac Cruz fight, which makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's a good fight. And would make Tank Davis a 3-weight world champion and put him in line for potential big pay-per-view fights with Ryan, Tio, Devin Haney, and maybe even Shakur when he moves up to the weight class. Obviously, you also have the Cepeda fight, but we know, based on what Golden Boy Oscar De La Hoya says, is that he's going to go the brand check route to win a world title and then obviously use that leverage, right, to his advantage, which is what obviously at this point Golden Boy needs to do. They don't have a deep stable, so they need to develop their fighters so financially they can get some pay from them. So then make Eduardo Nunez versus Raymond Ford. Raymond Ford moved up to 130. It's a great fight, but is that a fight Raymond Ford wants in his first matchup at that weight class? Chances are he's probably going to chase after the WBA champion. Or maybe Rocky Hernandez, who is not as good against Sugar Nunez. Zepeda is okay, but he is protected. I wouldn't say he's protected. He beat Jojo Diaz. He beat legitimate opponents. Who's he protected from? You can't fight everyone. Did everyone hear that Frank Warren just signed a big deal with DAZN? So that means right now you got Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, Oscar De La Hoya, all under DAZN. The way the PBC is rolling, don't be surprised if the PBC ends up fucking part of DAZN, which would be great. And then once Top Rank's contract and deal ends with with ESPN, fucking I would love to see them join as well. You get all 5 of those major promoters under the DAZN umbrella. Man, you and I win as boxing fans. Boxing would be fucking great. And we know that DAZN is now partly co-owned by Saudi Arabia. Zepeda has more wins in the top 10 at 135 than Shakur does. Laugh out loud. Exactly. Probably more than Tank Davis. Zepeda is carefully moved. They keep matching him up with these guys who can't squash an ant. You can say that, but what's the onus for them to put him in with a killer? At this point, they're trying to put him in a position where he becomes champion, and now they start making money out of him. You invest in a fighter to make a profit. You don't invest in a fighter to fucking lose money in a stock, right? He's an exciting fighter. People want to see him fight. So what you got to do is lead him to a world championship and then let him fight guys that are going to fucking make exciting fights. And then everyone wins. Ultimately, we're going to ask and expect him to fight the best and unify. But at this point, does it make sense for Loma, Shakur, or Tank Davis to fight Zepeda? He's a tough fighter, but it's not a huge legacy fight, not at this point. It would be like golden days when it was just HBO boxing. Exactly. You can invest in Zepeda, but I ain't gotta like it. He's a protected fighter. You could say he's protected. That's fine. 99% of the boxers in the sport today are fucking protected. So, you're not saying anything that's new. But, thanks everyone for jumping in. I'm going to feed my dog and drop the kids off at the pool. I will see you next time. Thanks for another great live with Sean Unboxing. See you next time.